Condo sellers have taken some serious losses in past couple of years, and I'm not talking about couple of thousands of dollars. I'm talking about some big numbers, and in today's video, I'm going to break down about it and also show you some real life scenarios of these losses, and also as a buyer how you can benefit, and more importantly as a seller what should be your next step if you have a plan to sell your condo. Hi everyone, my name is Parth Soni. I'm a realtor based in Kitchener-Waterloo. I help families and investors like you to get into a real estate market. If you like this type of content, do consider subscribing to my channel. So let's talk about what's actually happening in the condo market, especially in cities like Kitchener-Waterloo where I operate. In 2022, during the peak of the real estate boom, buyers were picking up pre-construction and resale condos are pricing roughly about $500,000 to $700,000. Bidding wars were very common at that time and people were waiving conditions. And developers, they were increasing pricing every new month. Fast forward to 2025 and things have looked very different. That same $600,000 condo, today it's sitting on a market for $400,000 or even less. And it's not just the price adjustment, it's a complete shift in the real estate market and market sentiment. And here's why this is happening. The number one factor in this one is the higher interest rate. Like the mortgage payment have shot up, buyers are priced out, especially first-time home buyers, and a lot of investors are choosing to stay on the sideline until the rate drops. Now, here as a smart buyer or a smart seller, you need to know about the rule of 1 by 10. What it means essentially is that where every 1% increase in the interest rate, the eligibility of that person decreases by 10%. And we have seen a couple of points over here, like 2.5% increase compared to 2022 and 2021. So it has almost decreases the eligibility of the buyer or the potential buyer by 20 to 25%. And I'm not saying necessarily it's a good or bad thing, but this is just to put a data out there. How does the interest rate affect the eligibility of the buyer or the potential of getting the mortgage for that particular property? The second factor in this one is the increased inventory. We have seen a flood of listings, especially assignment and condos, and more supply means more competition. So sellers are forced to drop their price to stand out. We have also seen record number of new construction completion happening in 2024. And to give you an idea about inventory level in Kitchener-Waterloo, it's roughly about 8.7. It's close to 9 months of inventory in condo segment. And we have never seen this amount of inventory in from last 2012. We don't have data past that, but if you see the numbers, we have never seen this number of inventory since 2012. So as a buyer, you have so many options out there to choose from, and then as a seller, you don't have much options or much buyers out there looking for your product. The third in this one is the investor panic selling. Now, many investors who bought pre-construction and now closing are realizing they can't rent it out to cover their cost. So they are offloading at a loss. And here's another pattern that we are noticing, especially with pre-construction buyers out there. You can check this out over here. I will link in the description. The fourth factor in this one is the negative cash flow units. Even you rent it out, the rent does not cover the mortgage, maintenance, taxes, and so many things comes when owning condo. A lot of people can't carry these properties anymore and they are offloading and selling. And lastly, buyer caution. Now people have become more cautious and are waiting for deals. So even if the prices are lower, the demand isn't rushing back into the market to get the condo. They are still waiting on the sideline to see what is happening in the overall market, and then buyers are jumping in to buy something. So this drop that you are seeing in the thumbnail, it's real. It's happening across the board. I've personally seen sellers losing 50, 80, $100,000 in some cases. And when we talk about pre-construction buyer, they are losing upwards of $500, $600,000. And it's tough, especially for those who bought during the hype without a long-term plan. Most often what we are seeing is $100 to $150,000 loss, but it could go high depending on at what price you purchased it. So the average price of a condo in Kitchener in April of 2025 is $473,000. And back in 2022, that is of April of 2022, during the peak, it was roughly about $600,000, and that's almost negative 22%. Now let's check out some of the examples what happened in the condo market in Kitchener-Waterloo. And by the way, these are the real examples. Those are sold recently or last year on in 2023 with some huge loss. So if you see this one, 155 Caroline, it is located in Waterloo. In 2022, this buyer or the seller, however you want to phrase it out, bought it for $670,000. And in 2023, in just 1 year, they sold it for $565,000, over $100,000 loss in this particular. And by the way, whatever the condos we are seeing today, by no means they are good or bad. It's just the market, and that's the shift we are checking out. Another one is One Victoria. They bought in 2022 for $580,000, sold for $467,000 in just 1 year. So that's a whopping drop. Now, just to give you an idea, the price you are seeing, that's the not the only loss the sellers are bearing. They also had the interest portion of it when they pay the mortgage, the maintenance cost, and so much more comes to this. So the loss are almost roughly about 120 to $150,000. The next one on the list is 191 King. Again, another really nice building out there in Waterloo. It's Power Loft. $585,000 was the purchase price in 2022. It sold for $449,000 in 2024. A huge loss down there. And just to give you an idea about inventory, as I previously mentioned, we have roughly about 8 to 9 months of inventory. To be precise, 8.7 months of inventory right now. But this is not accounting anything of assignment sales or the off market opportunities or the new inventory we have right now. So I would assume we have more inventory, at least a year of inventory right now. And just to give you an idea, all the prices that you saw over here was back in 2022 when the prices were at peak. And at that point of time, the inventory level was at 2.6 months. Right now, it's over 8 months. Now let's check out what a buyer and seller should do. Now, regardless if you're a buyer or a seller, you need to know about these three things when it comes down to selling or buying. The very first one in this one is the inventory or the monthly supply, which we touched on that previously. Now, this determines what kind of market you are in. If the inventory or the monthly supply is lower than 3 months, then it's especially you are in a seller's market where buyer does not have much say because the inventory is so much low. If the inventory is between 3 to 6 months, then you are in a balanced market where it depends on the type of the property. All the properties are coming and selling at a decent amount of space. And when you have an inventory level of 6 months or more, that is what we are in right now. It's considered as a buyer's market where buyer have more opportunity, more leverage than sellers out there. Second metric you need to understand is the days on market. It's very crucial for both buyers and sellers out there. As a seller, you need to understand, let's say if the days on market in your particular city is 30 days, and you have your condo sitting on a market for 40 or 50 days, then it might be some sort of a pricing issue in that particular condo, because most of the average in that city is selling at 30 days, and you have your condo, it's sitting on a market for 40 or 60 days. Now, as a buyer, you can come in and you can check it out. Like if that particular condo does not have much traction and it's been on market for quite a while, you can low call it and get a good deal on that. The third factor you need to consider is the average versus median price point. Most of the time, you see all the data out there are the average price point. As a smart buyer, you need to focus on a median price point. So ask your realtor what is the median price point, and more specifically, categorize into whether it's a one bed, two bed, three bed kind of a condo or kind of a product you have, and check those numbers rather than just checking out what is overall happening in the average sector. It's good to know about it, but more specifically, when you are selling or when you are buying, go down in a little bit detail. Now, here are some of the tips for sellers out there who are considering or already have their condo on the market right now. The very first one is to price realistically. Now, we know the inventory is so high, and if you're someone who is all tied up with 2022 or 2023 pricing, might not happen for you. You will leave your condo on a market for a prolonged period of time and not end up selling it. So make sure you work with someone who knows what is happening in that particular market, that particular sector, so that way they can guide you better in terms of adjusting the price and have a strategy for it. The second thing in this one is to avoid panic selling. Now, I understand when you are in a debt and when you have the equity at negative equity, you might want to offload the inventory very quickly. But if you have a proper strategy, if you set the prices well, then your condo should sell it out, because we are seeing sales happening. It's not like sales have completely stalled. We are seeing a good condo selling at a decent price point, what the market value should be. So if you're someone who is realistic about the price point, then you should not end up being avoiding. I mean, you should not end up being panic selling it. The third thing you can consider is to explore the rental income if possible. Now, if you are someone who bought it at the peak, it might be nearly next to impossible to cover everything from the rental income. But if you're someone who have bought a condo back in 2016, 2017, or even till 2019, it's highly likely that whatever the rent you are getting from that condo might cover your all the expenses that you are putting out there. So consider this option as well. Now let's check out as a buyer what you should look for. So very first thing, as all the buyers look for, is to look for a deal. Check out for a distressed pre-construction condo or even a resale property if you are getting at a huge discount. Try to check out more opportunities or more properties out there and try to lowball it. If, let's say, if you're checking a condo in one building and there are five listings in that building at the similar criteria, similar layout, and everything same, now lowball the very first condo that you like. If nothing, then try the second, third, and fourth one. You have options to choose from. The second thing with most of the buyers avoid is to getting a pre-approval. So get a pre-approval and ready to negotiate. Once you have a pre-approval, you will know what your exact number look like, and your negotiation power increases so much with that pre-approval. So make sure before starting or before hunting for any kind of properties, get a pre-approval ready. And most of the pre-approvals are valid for 90 to 120 days. Now, another factor, like people think, like if I do pre-approval, my credit score will go down. 100% it will go down. But if you are a solid, if you are someone who wants to buy it, it's a no-brainer to not get a pre-approval. The third factor is to work with a realtor who understands and knows the market. Now, I operate in Kitchener-Waterloo, so I know all the condos, what's happening in the market over here. Now, if you're working with someone who does not know about what is happening in that particular market, it might be not a good thing for you because you might end up paying more for that particular build. So overall, this is a tough market for some people out there, but it also a smart market for others. Now, if you're thinking of buying, selling, or just want a game plan, let's talk and subscribe for more straight up real estate talks like this and insights where I'll give you all the information with no hype and no fluff. We'll see you on the next video.